Before we get started, you may wonder why the problems are numbered 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3. I'm sort of wondering that myself, but yet here we are. I am still going to start with number 1, even though that's on the right-hand side of the page. Anyway, the objective for this assignment is to find x. But along the way, we're supposed to discover a pattern. So just watch for a pattern to emerge as we do this. Do not use decimals, please. So for right now, we're supposed to be using the Pythagorean Theorem. Of course, that is the rule that says if we have a right triangle, which we do, then leg squared plus leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. And students always say a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but please understand that that is leg, hypotenuse. So focusing in on problem number 1, if I do the Pythagorean theorem to find x, it's going to look like this. X squared is equal to 3 squared plus 3 squared. Alright, I like to just go ahead and take the square root at this point. Alright, but you could sort of work it out by hand if you wanted to. So that's just going to give me let's see, square root of 3 squared plus 3 squared. That's going to give me 3 radical 2. Okay, so x is 3 radical 2. Alright, so that's our first one. Watch for a pattern. Alright, what about problem number 2? Same thing. C squared should equal a squared plus b squared. So x squared is going to equal 6 squared plus 6 squared. If I want to get x by itself, I'm going to have to take the square root. So square root of both sides, and I'm going to get x equals 6 radical 2. Interesting. Alright, I bet most of you are already starting to see the pattern. See if you can predict what the answer to number 3 is going to be before we even do the Pythagorean theorem. Take a second and make a guess out loud. Now let's see if you were right. For right now, let's use the Pythagorean theorem one more time. X squared, c squared equals a squared plus b squared, 4 squared plus 4 squared. Once again, I take the square root. And what do you get? I get x is equal to 4 root 2. Now, can you see the pattern? Alright, when the sides of the square were 3, then the diagonal here was 3 radical 2. When the sides were length 6, the diagonal turned out to be 6 radical 2. And when the diagonal was, when the sides of the square were 4, the diagonal was 4 radical 2. Okay, so for the remainder of this paper, so this assignment should be really easy because from now on I'm going to allow you to use that pattern if you would rather not use the Pythagorean theorem. It's a shortcut. Well, first of all, I've thrown in a new variable now, y. So you're supposed to tell me what y is. Well, considering that you know, with the 90 degrees and all, and the fact that this is a 45-degree angle, that is going to make this a square. So if you see a 45 degrees and if you see the 90 degrees, you know that this is a square. So that means y is going to be 9, all right, because it's a square. So what's x going to be? 9 radical 2. Okay, well, what about number 5? What's y going to be? Y is going to be 5. So what's x going to be? 5 radical 2. Okay, so what's y going to be? 7. What's x going to be? 7 radical 2. Okay, I mean, it's really simple. So look at number 7. Just understand this little bullet here. Do you see the relationship between these? If you take a square and split it in half, one side of the square is always going to be this 45, 45, 90 triangle. So on the other hand, if you see a 45, 45, 90 triangle, you can think of it as being half of a square. So everything that we learned up here is still going to apply down here. Okay, because this is a 45, 45 triangle, just think of it as half of that square. So since this is half of a square, what's going to be the value of y? This is going to be 11, because this is half of a square, so these sides will be the same. So guess what x is going to be? 11 radical 2. Okay, so what's y going to be? 8. And what's x going to be? 8 radical 2. Okay, so last problem, super easy. What's y going to be? Y is going to be 10. So what is x going to be? 10 radical 2. Easiest homework assignment ever.